Need to learn diplomacy fast and well? Are you thinking of using the web-based Duplicity? Great. We're going to cover all that in the next 10 minutes here on Legendary Tactics. Diplomacy is a game of negotiation and compromise, cunning and ruthlessness. But there are some rules you're going to need to know, and it doesn't hurt to get familiar with one of the popular online platforms for playing diplomacy these days, Duplicity. Today, I'm going to teach you from a practical standpoint how to play this game. Start with going to duplicity.com or use the link in the description and sign in. You can use Google if you like. From there, it will take you to the main landing page where you can connect with games currently forming, games in progress, or revisit games that have been completed. There's also sandboxes where you can practice your moves to see how they are likely to turn out before you commit to them in a game. You can create or join a new game by clicking on the New Game button here at the bottom of the screen. From here you can browse open games, find an existing game, or create a game. If you are creating a new game, you can make the game private. You can select from a wide number of variants on the game Diplomacy. You can adjust how each player is assigned their nation, the game length by adjusting the phase length in terms of either days, minutes, or hours. You can also end the game in a draw after a number of years, as well as a number of other things that you can tweak. As mentioned earlier, there's also a sandbox mode which you can access by clicking the gear at the top right. This is where you can practice and try out different moves without affecting the game you're playing. When in game, you can toggle between viewing the map and viewing the chat logs, or press as it is referred to. Simply do this by toggling these icons back and forth. You may want to play this on your phone or tablet as well. Go to wherever you get apps and you should be able to find it there, available to install. In many ways, Duplicity is optimized for the mobile experience. If you are using a PC, it might help with playability for you to emulate a mobile device. You can do this by right-clicking on your screen and choosing the word Inspect from the menu. You can play Diplomacy with up to 7 players. Each player will control a country in Europe leading up to World War I. These nations are England, France, Germany, Italy, Russia, Austria-Hungary, also known as Austria, and Turkey. The colors on the board distinguish the countries and their ever-changing territory. Thin black lines designate provinces, and thin dotted lines designate sea spaces. There are only 3 types of spaces: inland, sea, and coastal. Land spaces are surrounded entirely by other land spaces, as indicated by the solid black line. Sea spaces are the light gray spaces divided from the land by this shadow here. Coastal spaces are land spaces adjacent to sea spaces. You can see on the board that there are 34 supply centers, which are indicated with a small double circle in Duplicity. Each of these support either an Army or Navy unit's existence, and the number of these that you control dictates how many pieces your country may have on the board. If you lose control of all of your supply centers, you will have no more units on the board and will be out of the game. It's a hard, cruel world. There are only 2 types of units. The first are armies. Armies can only be in inland and coastal provinces. In Duplicity, these are represented by artillery pieces. There are only 3 things an army can do. The first is hold. That means the army just sits there and does nothing. The second is move, where the army moves to an adjacent inland or coastal space. The last is support, which we'll get to in a minute. The other type of unit are fleets, which are represented by this old dreadnought battleship silhouette in Duplicity. Fleets can only be in sea spaces and coastal provinces. There are only 4 things fleets can do. The first is hold, as I said before. It just sits there. The second is move to an adjacent sea or coastal province space. This can be from a coastal province to an adjacent coastal province along a connected coastline. The third thing they can do is support, which I will get to in a minute. The fourth thing they can do is convoy, which I'll get to in 2 minutes. In Duplicity, to hold, just click on the unit. A little drop-down menu will appear and choose the first option, which is hold. You'll know you've done it right when a square appears over the unit. To move, click on the unit, click on Move, which is the second option, and then click on the space you'd like them to move to. You will see an arrow appear to confirm this. It's the same for both armies and fleets. Only one unit can be in a space at a time. Anytime two units try to share space, there is conflict. If two or more unsupported units try to move into the same space, or if two or more unsupported units move into a space that's already occupied, they bounce and don't move at all, which is called a standoff. Now we'll talk about support. Support can help you to turn the tides of a battle in your favor, or successfully defend against a joint attack. When a unit supports another, it adds its strength to the battle. It's important to remember that anyone can support the units of anyone else. You're not limited to just supporting your own. First of all, you can support in place. That means that you help out another unit in a space that you could normally move to. For example, an army can't support a fleet in a sea space, but they can support a fleet in a coastal space. A fleet can support an army in a coastal space, but can't support an army in an inland space. In Duplicity, simply click on the unit that you want to use for supporting, choose Support from the drop-down menu, and then click on the unit that you want to support. That's all you need to do to support in place. The other kind of support is to support an attack. If a unit can potentially move into a spot, it can also support another unit into that spot. This has the effect of adding its strength to the attack. For example, if this army is holding in place and is not supported by anyone else, and this army attacks with the support of the army next to it, the attacking army wins 2-1. If you want to support an attack, click on the unit that you would like to add support from, then click on the unit that you would like to support, and finally on the space where that unit is looking to move. You know you have done it right when the triangle appears over the unit and there's a wonky arrow to indicate the move it is supporting. This is a simple example. Support can get kind of complex, and it's worth taking some time to learn a bit more about this, but just remember that all the orders take place at the same time, and at the end of the day, all you're doing is adding up all the attacking units and subtracting the defending units. Whoever has the higher total wins the battle. If the attacker wins, a unit gets to move into the defender's space, and the defender has to retreat to a neighboring empty space. These orders are also submitted simultaneously. If the defending unit can't find a space to retreat to, or if two units retreat to the same space, they are disbanded and removed from the board. Don't worry, they can be rebuilt again in your home country as long as you have the supply centers to support them. A player can choose to disband a unit instead of retreat if they like. Simply choose the option from the drop-down menu. In Duplicity, if you ever make a mistake on an order, you can always redo it by clicking on the unit or the territory, click on Clear from the drop-down menu, and then pick your new order from there. One more thing about support. Support requires a unit's undivided attention. If another unit attacks them while it is supporting someone, the support is cut as it turns to deal with the distraction. This can be a good way to defend yourself if you have units or some friends nearby to help out. As promised, there's one more thing that a fleet can do, and that is Convoy. A convoy allows the fleet to carry an army across a sea space to another land space. First, click on the land unit and pick Move via Convoy from the drop-down menu, and choose the space you want to move to. For the convoying fleet, click on the convoy action from the menu, and then choose the space you want to convoy from and to, and you are good to go. Look for the pentagon shape to confirm this. You can daisy chain from fleet to fleet to fleet as long as you like, all in one turn, as long as they are all connected by sea. To do this kind of order in Duplicity, click on the army you want to move, and click on where you would like them to go across the sea. Then, click on the fleet that is going to convoy that army across, choose Convoy, and then click on the army that is moving, and then the eventual destination that you'd like to go. Do this for each ship in the chain. Duplicity should be able to take it from there. When convoying, you'll see a pentagon on the board over the fleet. You'll see a pentagon over the army unit as well. Armies that are convoying cannot be used to support, but they can be used in an attack and can dislodge a defending army if they have enough support. Each player can give orders to all, some, or none of their units. This is done by clicking on the units as I've described. Before you're done, check to make sure you've given orders to all of your units. Now there's a few peculiarities about the board that you should know. For instance, you can't move to islands except England. Switzerland is off limits. There are a couple provinces with waterways like Kiel and Constantinople. These waterways move through the provinces, so fleets can enter from one coast and leave by the other, and armies can also pass into and out of these provinces to adjacent spaces. Some spaces have two coasts, like Bulgaria, Spain, and St. Petersburg. A fleet that enters one of these provinces along one coast occupies the whole province, but cannot skip over to the other coast. They have to either move to an adjacent sea space or to a coastal province that is adjacent to that coast. Fleets can also support an attack into one of these provinces from any adjacent coast. Denmark and Sweden are considered to be coastal provinces that are adjacent, and they separate the Baltic Sea from the North Atlantic. Fleets must move to one of them first before passing through. The game is played in years with a spring and a fall turn, with a brief winter turn that is used for building or disbanding armies and fleets. It starts in the spring of 1901. There's no turn limit on the game of diplomacy. In your spring turn, you give orders to your units as I described previously. These orders are then resolved simultaneously. Then you spend the summer negotiating. This is typically done in Duplicity with the press. Here you can click on whoever you would like to address and then type your message. You can have a quiet one-on-one conversation, share some news or ideas with just your allies, or you can announce something to the whole world. Just make sure you double check who you're writing to. Other players will be doing the same. Then, in the fall part of the turn, everyone submits their orders again and the next round of moves are resolved. In the winter part of the turn, everyone adds up how many supply centers they controlled at the end of the fall turn. It's important to note that supply centers only change control after the fall turn of a given year, so you can pass through supply centers in your spring move without taking them, which might be useful in your negotiation strategy. If someone has more units on the board than supply centers, they need to disband units to bring things into equilibrium. They can choose to disband any units of theirs that they like. In Duplicity, the drop-down menu will make it easy to build or disband units as needed. Just click on the unit and choose what you would like to do. Duplicity will do the rest. When you're done, just click here to submit your orders. And that's basically it. You've now learned how to play diplomacy, and you've now learned how to play diplomacy on Duplicity. We hope that this was helpful to you, and if it was, please stab the like and subscribe buttons below and comment if you like. Then, go play a game of diplomacy on Duplicity and discover the amazing community of people there. Have fun! This is NATO with Legendary Tactics.